Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary, starting with one of my favorite shows, Big Brother. In this episode, I'm chatting about Celebrity Big Brother Season 3, Episode 8. And okay, it's a Sunday night episode. We see all of the fireworks and who is crowned the new HOH. The competition is the famous Big Brother Wall, and it's a competition of endurance. But before I really get into the recap of the episode, I wanted to comment on the fireworks and all of the fighting that we saw in the live feeds. Yes, another fight. The house versus Shanna. Tonight's episode, it heavily edited a lot of what went on the live feeds. And of course, because they only have but so much time to air the episode, it only shared a little bit. And so that's what I want to start with first. All right, so similar to the fight between Cynthia and Todd Bridges, the house versus Shanna was trending too. A lot of people had a lot to say. I'm no different. So here we go. So we saw the house turning against Shanna. And yeah, they kind of beat up on her, figuratively, of course. At this point in the house, no one trusts Shanna. They think she's playing both sides of the house, which, by the way, she was, up until NSYNC Chris left, because that's where she drew the line and she decided what side of the house she wanted to play on. But I don't think all of the backlash that she received that we saw in the live feeds, I don't think that was warranted, right? All right. So why are they against Shanna? And you saw a little bit on the episode tonight. So they're not happy that she was playing both sides, and she was, overall, they're not happy that she's playing both sides, right? That is a gameplay or a type of game and strategy that people have played in the past. It was working. I thought they were very successful. It was short-lived. But NSYNC Chris and Shanna, they were playing both sides of the house, right? And remember, their thought was, okay, we'll get out who we want and let the two pairs, and the two pairs were Misha and Todrick, and on the other side of the house, Carson and Cynthia. So NSYNC Chris and Shayna's thought was, because they were a duo, right? Their thought was, okay, we'll get out people like Todd or Mariah, Todd Bridges or Lamar, someone like that will weaken both of their game or both couples' games, and let the couples go back and forth, right? Because Misha and Todrick thinks Carson is a threat. Carson and Cynthia thinks Misha's a threat. So let them go back and forth. And that was a smart play, right? Or that was a smart thought. That was a strategic play. And they took a risk in doing that. It's catching up to her now. But up until NSYNC Chris was voted out, they were playing both sides. So Todrick and Misha was able to convince Cynthia that Shanna isn't to be trusted and that Carson was Shayna's target, right? They said she's in an alliance working to get Carson and Cynthia out. Now, that was a lie, because remember, Todrick considered Carson a target. And he's playing the game so well, he has influence over Misha, although he always says he doesn't. But he got into Misha's ear, made her start to believe that Carson was a threat. And then between the two of them, Todrick was working Misha so hard that's all. Remember how Misha was on the loop? I just want to get Carson out. I want to get Carson out. He has to go. He's a threat. Carson. I mean, she was like on this loop. And Todrick was very successful getting her there. And so that's all she wanted to do. Now, because Shanna and NSYNC Chris were playing both sides of the house, of course they're going to agree. Okay, we'll go with it. Carson's a threat. But when NSYNC Chris had his opportunity to put people up, he didn't put up Carson or Cynthia. Right? He put up, did he put up Cynthia? No. He put up Mariah and Teddy. I think that, oh my God. Or maybe Chris Kattan. Yeah, he put up Mariah. I'm sorry. NSYNC Chris put up Mariah and Chris Kattan. That was his target. Right? He didn't put up Carson. So that just goes, that's one piece of evidence that I think Carson should think through, because if he was going to be targeted by NSYNC Chris, or, if Shayna was targeting them so hard, how come he wasn't put up by them? Not only that, did Shayna not use the power of veto on Carson in the last episode to pull him down? I mean, what is happening? Anyway, they blame Shayna for Carson going on the block, saying that he was really Shayna's target, and that's not true at all. Tardrick lied. I think once she pulled Carson down, in that moment, her game in terms of playing both sides of the house ended, right? Because at that moment, when she pulled Carson down against what Misha wanted, she drew the line in the sand. I mean, they even had that conversation in the hallway, and Misha was pissed. Remember, she started crying afterwards and all this other stuff. So, yeah. At that time, Shayna picked the team she wanted to be on, and I believe she would have remained loyal to Carson and Cynthia. But Todrick manipulated Cynthia, which isn't hard to do because she's less than smart in this game. I guess I want to say that. Earlier, I was trying to be nice about Cynthia. In the cast reveal, I already said that I wasn't a fan of her. But I don't put her down and stuff like that, because this is a game. It's a Big Brother game. So I don't want to insult people. But in this game, Cynthia is less than smart. Now, does some of that carry over to her real life in terms of what we see? Because she's a reality star. So what we see, I think it does. But in this game, she's playing less than smart. And she's easily manipulated. And that was proven the way Todrick just put a bug in her ear and she just went with it. All right, so Todrick manipulated Cynthia to believe that Shayna was a snake. I think that's the term they used. And then the fireworks started. They were yelling at Shayna. They were accusatory. She had to defend herself. They were getting in a shouting match. It just was ugly. But the most disappointing thing was when they began to comment on her personally. They started to take personal digs at Shayna. And I thought that's when it went low. Up until that point, I thought it was a good move. That's the game of Big Brother, right? You try to outsmart your opponents. And that's what Todrick did. People lie. They backstab in this game. That's part of the game. And fans, we love to see that, right? If we're really honest, we like to see that stuff, and it goes back and forth. That when the power shifts back and forth, we love to see that as well. And we love the manipulation, we love the backstabbing. But the way they took personal digs at her, which wasn't shown in this episode because they only have but so much time, but I think that would have really turned people off. It definitely turned me off because I didn't agree with it. Misha commented on Shayna not being or shouldn't be a role model, all because she decided to play both sides of the house. She can't be a role model. Like what? She also made a comment on Lamar calling Shayna shortcake, basically implying that it was inappropriate for another man, because Shayna is in a relationship. And Misha was saying it was inappropriate for a man to be calling her that when she's in a relationship. And I thought, I'm sorry, Misha, aren't you known as Misha Cupcake Tate? The hypocrisy is just unbelievable. Todrick insulted her by saying she married a rich man for fame, where all of them, he was distinguishing himself and the others, distinguishing between them and Shayna, saying that Shayna married a rich man for fame, whereas all of the rest of them, they worked hard for where they were and what they have. Basically, he's implying that she isn't as deserving to be in that house or have any type of fame because she married into it. And I'm thinking, aren't you all house guests in Celebrity Big Brother. I mean, she's there with you, Todrick. So clearly someone thinks she's a celebrity. And I just thought, wow, his ego is like really inflated, right? I thought that was a low blow. And that was pretty telling. Like, Todrick, some people don't even consider Todrick a celebrity. They always question it. A lot of people do not like Todrick. I have said this in almost all of my episodes since the game started. Todrick is not liked. Like, he has his fan base. He is successful in his own right. But there is a huge population that do not care for him. He has his reputation in the business. I'm not in the business, so I don't know. I just see what I see online in tweets and stuff in terms of how he treats artists and just his attitude and things like that. I mean, he is not liked. And I was always like, well, why don't they like him? I like Todrick. He's playing the game, and I didn't understand, but I can see it, you guys. I have to concede. I can see why he's not liked, just based on that comment of saying she hasn't worked hard, or they worked hard to get where they are, and she married into fame. Therefore, she shouldn't be in the house? She shouldn't be on Celebrity Big Brother? Like, it just was so, I don't know. Him lying and shifting the target to Shanna, fine, that's Big Brother. But just the personal comments like that, that's not right. And it just showed a few things about his character, Misha's comment, and the whole she shouldn't be a role model, and the way they comment on the way she dresses as well. It's just unbelievable to me. And then with Misha, like, how are you commenting? Like, you are a fighter. You it's like violence. Like, you fight, you hit people, you get black eyes and stuff. And I'm sure you're a role model to someone, but is that like people can make comments about that occupation? It's just, I don't know. I didn't like it. I thought it showed how both of their egos, both Todrick and Misha, I thought it showed how both of their egos are inflated. And more so for Todrick, because he has an inflated ego. We all see that. But for Misha, it basically showed that if she doesn't get her way, or if she can't control you, then that's when she has a problem with you. And clearly, you can't control Shayna. Shayna's going to do what she wants. And I think that's part of the problem for Misha, right? I think during the whole confrontation, I think both Misha and Cynthia were acting like mean girls. I do. They were bashing her, and that bashing lasted for over an hour. It was way too long. Way too long for a Big Brother game. I mean, yes, the live feeds were on fire, but I mean, it just was a mess. It just was ugly. And then the confrontation in the kitchen. Yeah, we saw some of that on the episode. After the whole thing was done. Yeah, no, they didn't show this part on the episode. Yeah, that's why I'm bringing this up. After that confrontation in the kitchen, Todrick and Misha looked at each other and they hugged and spun each other around like, yay, almost like they were celebrating what they've done and how they've given Misha a new life in the game, since now all the attention has shifted over to Shayna and her being a quote unquote snake. They were like giving themselves, they were celebrating. So they didn't show that. I wish they showed that on the episode. But and that just goes to show you they both knew. Well, it goes to show you Todrick was strategic in doing that. Okay, fine. But Misha, she knew what Todrick was doing. And she's one of those people that's always talking about integrity and character. And you knew that Todrick lied to get you new life in the game. But that was okay because it benefited her, right? Just, that's why when I say these people, when they talk about integrity and character, it's all bullshit, because they only say those words when their own game is like in jeopardy, right? Or if they feel like they're losing, or if something's not going their way, then they get into the integrity and character and all that stuff. And it's just, Oh my god, it's just so annoying. Um, so anyway, after that, another thing they didn't show, or they only showed a clip towards the end of the episode, that bashing went on for over an hour. And then for a few hours after that, Shayna was isolated. She was by herself in the room. But I think everyone had just had to calm down. But she was by herself in the room. They were still going on talking, trying to, and it's like that mob mentality. You have to keep talking to each other in the mob to keep everybody riled up, right? And of course, Tarjik's going to keep spinning it up and talking and talking and talking like he normally does, because that keeps people in alignment. It's so clever on one hand, but it's so wrong on another. But in the game of Big Brother, I mean, I say all the time, Todrick talks a lot, and the way he kept it going and going and going. Oh my god! As a fan, I loved it. I didn't like when he went low when they were commenting on her dressing and the way she dresses, and commenting on her marrying rich men and how she's not implying that she shouldn't be in the house because she's not famous. And marrying a rich man, like all those type of comments, and she's not a good role model, and her flirting with Lamar is like unacceptable. Like it just, and I question whether or not she's really flirting with Lamar. Although I saw some people online, some reviewers, they thought that Lamar and Shayna will hook up. I don't know. I shouldn't even be spreading that, but from what I see, I mean, they talk and stuff like that. And, and by the way, I think there could be some truth in how Lamar and Shayna is viewed. Like, I don't really see anything inappropriate, but apparently Shayna's boyfriend does, because he's all over TMZ now saying he's reconsidering proposing to her. I think he unfollowed her on social media. Like, he's doing all this stuff because of what he sees on the live feeds and on air, and he doesn't like her interaction with Lamar. Oh my god. Anyway, so for a few hours, Shayna was isolated and by herself. I kind of felt bad for her. Well, I did feel bad for her. A lot of people online feels bad for Shayna too. I mean, this stuff trended. I think the way Todrick manipulated everyone, starting with Cynthia, that's the game of Big Brother. But I wish he just left those personal digs out and just stuck with like just the move he made. That was acceptable. Shift the target. That's the name of the game. That's acceptable. That's good Big Brother play. But the personal digs, I wish he would have just left that part out. I think if Todrick and Misha are successful in getting Shayna out this week, they will have to sit next to each other in order for either one of them to win. From here on out, Todrick and Misha will have to make it to the end together. Because if either of them are sitting next to anyone else, they're not going to win. They're just not, especially Todrick. He's already on the feeds. He's already badmouthed Teddy. He can't stand her. He already badmouthed NSYNC Chris. He can't stand him. So he's definitely not getting their votes. And the way he's treated Shayna in terms of changing the target and how nasty he's gotten, he's not getting her vote. That's 3 votes he already is not going to get. Shayna won't vote for Misha if she's against anybody else, I don't think Teddy will vote for Misha either, NSYNC Chris, I'm hoping he won't fan out and he won't vote for Misha either, but I know Shayna will definitely not vote for Misha. Teddy won't vote for Misha. That's 2 votes right there. And everyone who has left the house so far, I don't think will vote for Todrick. Maybe Mariah may give Todrick a vote, but if it was between Mariah and Misha, if it was between Todrick and Misha, I think Mariah will vote for Todrick over Misha. But yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, people make good strategic plays in the game, and they get all excited about it. But what is always a flaw is that they don't consider part of the gameplay in terms of the end of the game, where the game turns over to the jury. And especially Celebrity Big Brother, because once celebrities leave the house, they're watching, they're having interviews, People are calling them for comments. Teddy has had a lot to say about Todrick since she's left the house. NSYNC Chris has had a lot to say about Todrick since he's left the house. So I think they can give themselves pats on the back. That's what Todrick said in the end of the episode. He gives himself a pat on the back by how he shifted the target over to Shanna. But Todrick, I want to say, dude, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. And I always say people vote based on how you made them feel. And he won't win. If he's not sitting next to, he may have a chance to win if he's sitting next to Misha, but he won't win at all. He's not good at jury management. And although he has had good gameplay, aside from, with the exception of, I should say, of personal digs, he's had good gameplay, but he won't win because he has poor jury management. Let's see. I already went over the votes. And I always think, from my point of view, house guests always have to be careful with celebrating victories because, as we know in the Big Brother game, those victories are short-term victories, right? It only is good until you get to the next competition. So you can get all excited, yes, and jump around and do the dance and all that stuff, but don't get too cocky because it's short-lived. Things change and go back and forth so quickly. And that's one of the things we as fans love about this game, right? For all we know, Shayna will wind up winning the POV. She'll keep the nominations the same. She'll win the next HOH and then put both Misha and Todrick right back up there. Well, Todrick's never been on the block, but Misha will be right back up there, right next to her buddy. As a fan, don't we hope that happens, right? Cynthia in all of this looks foolish. Yeah, I'm just saying it. She looks dumb because she has been played and manipulated by Todrick. And I can't wait. No, I don't care. I mean, really, once the game ends and, winner is announced, I don't hold on to this. I'm so excited in the moment, right? But when she goes out of the house and looks at this, they don't do any follow-up on where are they now 3 years after the game is played and stuff, right? Just to get their reflection on if they were right and all this other stuff. No one will care in a few months after, right? But Cynthia definitely looks foolish. I kind of feel like Carson is going to be a casualty in this because he values Cynthia's opinion, so she can influence him, right? And influence him to make specific decisions when neither of them know really the game. And as far as I'm concerned, Carson has been playing the game. I'm impressed with the competitions and how well he's doing. But I think he's going to be affected because Cynthia has no clue. She can't win stuff. Whatever. I just hope Carson is able to settle his mind and really see through what just happened. He needs to be by himself long enough to really think about things without Cynthia in his ear and definitely without Todrick. And I'm hoping that by some miracle, he'll see Shayna's point, right? Yes, Shayna was playing both sides of the house, but she made her decision once she pulled Carson off. That alone should tell you where her loyalties were, right? And he cannot, this whole, I want to know that I'd rather play with the devil I know than the one I don't. Saying Misha's straight up and she's straightforward and all this other stuff. But I also want to go back and say, she took you off the block, Carson. So even if she was playing both sides of the house, she pulled you down. What does that say? Someone, well, I don't think Shayna can do that, but I wish someone or Shayna would have said, by me taking you down off the block, explain to me what that means. Like, how do you interpret that? And then let him just walk through it, because it doesn't make sense. If he is believing what Todrick and Misha are saying about Shayna, he would have to have a full explanation and reasoning of why Shayna took him off the block. It would have to be something that made sense to him. And I don't think he has had time to even think about that, because Cynthia is all in his ear because she was manipulated by Todrick. It's great. We've also learned that Misha has a big ego, and I believe that's part of her dislike for Shayna. I said that a little earlier. Because she can't control Shayna, that's the part of the problem. Yep. Todrick, I feel he's going to get a lot of backlash when he leaves the house, even more than what he's getting now, or even more than what he was getting before he entered the house. And like I said, yes, he has fans. There are a lot of people that do not like him, and I hope it doesn't happen. I don't think there's going to be any consequences for anyone in this house. America, well, I guess all over the world, we treat celebrities differently. So at the end of this, them talking all this integrity and character, I think it'll have no effect. They'll just get their publicists to do something, and we'll look at something else, right? We'll shift to something else. All right. And then, especially for Celebrity Big Brother, all of them will be fine. And that's it, right? All right. Well, maybe not all of them. I think Shayna and her man, he's all over team. I think I just said that. But if I didn't, quick. Shayna's man is all over TMZ, upset about her interaction with Lamar. And for me, I'm like, Shayna, good riddance, right? You don't need him. There's somebody out there better, right? And there's a lot of people pulling for Shayna right now. So let's all send positive vibes that she wins that POV. All right. Now, going into tonight's episode, the show picked up after the HOH competition. All of the house guests were competing in the comp with the exception of Misha, and that's because she is the outgoing HOH, so she's not eligible to play. As soon as they started, this was funny because as soon as the HOH competition started, my hubs, he told me, the half game show is starting. And I'm like, I knew that was going to happen because I said that it might happen around 8. But anyway, he called me and I'm like, but I had to let go of Big Brother, abandon it, and then watch the rest on DVR because I wanted to see the halftime show. They had Dr. Dre, Snoop, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, and Eminem. And it was an okay show. I really can't watch Dr. Dre like I used to back in the day, because I have issues with him. But overall, it's okay. Moving on. Back to the HOH competition. Everyone winds up falling except Todrick and Carson in the end. And I think I said I may have been surprised in the beginning of how well Carson does in competitions, but again, he pulled out another great performance, right? And he has shown that he can keep up in these competitions. They're thinking Misha is this physical threat, and yet Carson does well in these competitions. So well that Carson and Todrick were both the final two people up on the wall. Todrick was getting so tired and he was in pain. He wound up asking for a deal with Carson, and the deal was that Carson wouldn't put him up or backdoor him. Once he accepted, Todrick just fell. And I believe, if Todrick didn't make that deal, he would have wound up falling. I think Carson would have outlasted Todrick, Anyway, so Todrick was smart in making a deal. All right. And what was interesting to me is that deal only covered him. It covered him both being put up straight and backdoored. It didn't cover Misha. So this is another example of how well he's playing. He's playing for himself and he's playing to win, right? And it's so funny because Misha saw that. And in my mind, I'm trying to I'm asking myself, Misha, how are you reconciling that, right? Look at Todrick's character. Is that a reflection of his character or his integrity? He just made a deal for himself, not the team. Right? But she would never confront him because that's all she has in the game. And that's why I said the whole integrity and character comments are all bull, because they use that when it's convenient for them to use. Todrick just made a deal right in front of Misha's face for himself. And then later on in the episode, he was trying to talk through, well, I had to hurry up and make it because I was falling. And I just said, I think he'll make a deal if it's just me. And then we'll figure out how to get, like, he went on talking and talking and talking, explaining away, gaslighting Misha, explaining why he did this, which is part of the game. But I just found it so funny that Misha reconciled in her head that that was okay. Right? We didn't hear any integrity and character comments from her because it benefited her, right? Well, the fact that both of them won't be on the block benefits her, and the way that he shifted the target over to Shanna benefits her. So it's okay. Just the hypocrisy. All right, so everyone's up falling. Carson wins. Todrick began to do what he does best, and that's talking, gaslighting, deflecting, right? That's his strategy in the game. It is working for him, but it's not going to work well enough for him to win. Mark my words. All right. They quickly went to a clip where Todd Bridges was explaining again an HOH and veto to Lamar. I mean, I think this has happened 4 or 5 times now. It is funny to watch, and part of me thinks it's just for TV. Like, I can't believe Lamar hasn't picked this up. I don't want to believe he hasn't picked this up. I want to believe so badly like he's just playing for TV, you know? I want to believe that, you guys. What do you think? It's funny to watch, though. All right, so after all this happens, Carson wins. Misha's ego is deflated a little bit. She didn't even participate in going up to see Carson's HOH room, citing she's not a fake person and she can't go in to pretend. And then I'm like, but Misha, where's the integrity? Where's your character? It's poor sportsmanship, right? You go up to the room, you look at the room, and you keep it moving afterwards, right? But you're supposed to do it. That's part of the game. But she didn't get her way. Her game is coming to an end in her mind at that time, right? And so she's pouting. And that shows exactly who she is. And that shows her character right in that moment with her pouting, with her sunglasses on. She probably was crying, playing cards, and just, I'm not going up there. Big baby. All right, Carson brings Todrick in to tell him plans of putting Misha and Todd Bridges up and asks that if he wins the veto, to leave the noms the same. Now, here is where Carson is trying to do a little strategic play, right? So after he talks with Cynthia and Shanna, and by the way, out of Cynthia, Shanna, and Carson, Shanna knows this game better than the two of them. So it doesn't surprise me that part of this deal that Carson is now getting ready to bring to Todrick is part of Shanna's, is influenced by Shanna. All right, anyway, so Carson brings Todrick in the room and he says, here's the deal. He won't put him up as he's promised, because that was the deal they made before they got off the wall. So he's not going to put him up. He's not going to backdoor him. He won't see the block. So he started with that. And I was like, good, Carson, very good. But then he said, if you win the veto, you have to leave nominations the same. And in the room, when this was being told to Todrick, here was the people in the room: Carson, Cynthia, Shanna, and Todrick. And remember, they were like the first alliance, the girls and the gays. I just thought that was telling. Anyway, as soon as, Todrick, he didn't like this deal, of course, and he went straight to Misha to tell her what they just said in the proposal. And in that moment, it just clicked, and Todrick was like, I'm going to go blow up Shayna's game. And that's where it started, right? So everything I started with in the beginning of the episode, that's how it started in terms of Todrick blowing up Shayna's game, right? Let's see. All right, so Todrick goes to Cynthia first because she's so easy to manipulate, and he was successful getting Cynthia to believe him, and then we saw how it all went downhill from there. And then I told you the other stuff that happened in the beginning of the episode. One of the things they didn't show in the episode was how nasty Misha was to Shayna when she came into the bathroom. She basically said she didn't want to have a conversation or continue the conversation with Shayna sitting right there. And that's when Shayna said, well, I'll get up and let you finish having your conversation. And she left. They kind of edited that part out. And sidebar, because I didn't see this on the live feeds, but Todrick standing on the middle of the dining room table in his boots, just ugh. And I hope they sanitized that table after that happened. I mean, he was so hell-bent on trying to hear. Just go upstairs. Like, Misha just went upstairs and stood outside the door. I mean, the standing on the table and stuff, like, what is that about? I don't know. They can see you from the room on the TV, the HOH room. Like, you can see the kitchen. So what are you doing? Just go up to the... I don't know. That just... Maybe he was just excited because he heard them arguing. He's like, oh, my stuff is working. My plan worked. You know. Anyway. So in summary, Cynthia and Carson got played by Todrick. He lied, and he was able to shift that target to Shayna. And in the end, Carson wound up nominating Misha and Todd Bridges. The plan is for anyone but Shayna to win the POV. They pull down Todd Bridges and then backdoor Shayna. So this is going to be good, what happens tomorrow. All right. And on the live feeds, they just went down. And so I'm hoping they're playing the Power of Veto, but I think because of the Super Bowl, maybe that's why it was delayed or something. But we'll see what happens tomorrow night, right? Now, a few more observations before I end this. The way Todrick made a deal for himself in that Carson wouldn't nominate him or backdoor him if he won the HOH, that was clear that he was, it was clear that he was playing for himself. And I hope Misha saw that, right? There was no team in that. He was playing for himself. Another observation, the way that Carson so delicately, I should use words I can pronounce, right? He was so gentle. And the way he got off the wall. He didn't jump down. Like they showed the end of when he swung his arms up. But you guys, if you would have saw on the live feeds, he squatted down, sat on the ledge, and then gently slid off the ledge. It was just so funny. And then he swung his arms up like a gymnast. But he didn't just jump down like everybody else did, right? He sat down gently on the ledge and then slid off. So that was funny. On the live feeds, we saw Misha was so upset. I already talked about that. She was so upset after Carson won. She didn't even go up to see his HOH room. That talks about her character, right? And although it was short-lived, I did like when Carson, Cynthia, and Shayna were in the room hugging and celebrating after Carson won the HOH. That was a good moment. Didn't last long, but that was great. I was happy. Weren't we all happy as fans? We're like, yeah, the power is back on the other side now, so we should see what happens, you know? And then Todrick. He just blew her game up. Oh, poor Shayna. Anyway, the game is still good to me. I'm enjoying it. What do you think? Aside from the low blows and the personal digs, the strategy that's going on in the game, I'm liking it, right? All right, so let's send positive vibes to Shayna to win the POV and then the next HOH. And I think we can manifest that. Let's have it happen. She's the underdog right now. She's the only one playing for herself. She has no one, and I'm hoping, we're hoping for her, right? If for whatever reason Misha survives the next eviction, if for whatever reason Misha survives the next eviction, I hope that Shayna just throw her right back on the block. I really do. One thing that I did see tonight, and this was shortly before the episode aired on the live feeds, I saw that Cynthia and Todrick were talking, And Cynthia said she was so flattered that she was able to stay, right, over NSYNC Chris with that 5-0 vote. Like everyone voted for NSYNC Chris, and she was so flattered. And my thoughts were, Cynthia, girl, like you have not a clue. Like no one finds Cynthia a threat in the game. No one. And the vote had nothing to do with wanting to keep her, right? Because she's so loved. The vote had nothing to do with that. The vote had everything to do with weakening a side of the house. And the fact that Misha could not control NSYNC Chris. That's what it had to do with. It had nothing to do with Cynthia being this threat and she's so loved. You shouldn't be flattered, Cynthia. They think you can't win anything and you're not smart. That's what they think. That's why you're lasting. And at some point, you will be voted out because they won't need you. They're keeping you around because they think they can beat you. So I hope that's one thing she sees once the episodes air. They always say, I'm going to watch the footage when we get out the house. Everybody always say, I'm going to watch the game. You'll see the truth. Well, I hope she sees that truth. You aren't a threat, Cynthia. No one thought you were a threat. No one thinks you're smart in the game at all. You only stuck around long enough for them to beat you. Oh, she is so like, just, I'm not a fan. All right. Okay, you guys, that's it. I don't want to keep going on. On this episode, on the next episode, I should say, we'll see who wins the power of veto. Hopefully, Shanna. And this could definitely change the game again. So we'll have to see. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back and give me a listen. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. I want to interact with you guys. So leave me a comment, leave me a message. I'll write back. You can find me by looking for Chatter Out Loud. I have this podcast. I tweet. I'm on YouTube. So look for Chatter Out Loud and you'll find me. I also have links in the description so you can connect with me. So check that out. All right. Yep. So my name is Danielle and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your support. That's all I have. Thanks again for listening and I'll talk to you next time.